Hi everybody, this is Abby with Scrap and Abby, and today I'm going to show you how to make this really cute tag that you can use to give to a friend or you can attach to a gift. And we're going to be using these products today for this tutorial. I'm going to be using some really lovely ribbon from Mayarts. I love this. Purple is my favorite color, so I'm a huge fan of this ribbon. I'm going to use some distress ink and some stays on ink for the stamping of the sentiment. We're going to be using some craft tag that I've actually tea stained, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Some embellishments are a butterfly and some pearls and some perfect medium for the embossing. We're going to be doing the Resist Emboss technique, which is what you see right here, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's real easy. And then I just have my stamps out ready to go with some cardstock and my distressing tool. So I'll go ahead and clear up my workspace and we'll get started. Okay. So the tag I'm going to be using, this is what it looks like. Let me just get everything cleared off my space here. Just a second. Okay. So the tag I'm using is actually this here. It's just a tag from Ink Essentials Ranger Craft Tag. And they come out, these ones are, you can use any size of a tag, but this is a 6 1/4 by 3 1/4. And this is what the tag looks like out of the package, just in case you've never used those particular tags. I have tea stained my tag because I wanted to kind of look more like a vintagey kind of distressed look, because I kind of like that. And I didn't want it to be quite so bright white against the ribbon I'm choosing to use. So I will be doing a tutorial on how to tea stain. It's a really easy technique to do to give age to any of your projects. You can use it on fabric, you can use it on paper and ribbon, things of that nature. So we'll go ahead and just get started with this. So the first thing I'm going to do, and I'll show you the tag one more time that's completed just so you kind of get an idea. What we're going to do the first step is the Resist Emboss technique. So I'm going to go ahead and get my image. What I'm going to do is, what I'm doing off camera, just so because you can't see me, I'm just putting my butterfly image that I chose for this project on my inking block. And I'm going to use perfect medium, and you can use any kind of embossing stamp pad. It doesn't have to be perfect medium. This is just what I choose to use. I just like it because it's a little more juicier and it seems to stick better to textured items like this tag that I've made here. So what I'm going to do, there's no rhyme or reason to this, and I'm going to grab my piece of paper off here just so I don't get my workspace full of embossing. I'm going to choose to do, we'll do this side. And there's no rhyme or reason to how you want to put your image on. You just kind of do what you want. So I'm going to make a couple just kind of off to the side. It's because I think when you scatter things around a little bit, it just looks kind of not so planned, and I like that. And we'll do one partial over here. And even though you cannot see the middle of the tag, as you can see right here, you don't see what's in the center because the cardstock's there, I still like to put some stamped images just because you never know if a little piece is going to poke through or not. Okay. And so you can't see it, of course, on the camera because I haven't put the embossing powder on, but you can see, if you kind of look in the light, you can see the embossed image of the butterflies. The next step we're going to do is, I'm going to grab my little scratch paper, is I have some clear embossing powder. This just happens to be close to my heart, because this is what I had on hand. You can use, of course, any kind of clear embossing powder or any brand that you prefer. And it's basically, we're just going to go ahead and sprinkle the embossing powder over the images. And another thing about the perfect medium I like is that it doesn't dry as fast as some of the other embossing inks that I've come across, because sometimes I'll be doing these in multiple quantities, kind of like assembly line if I'm making a packet to give away as a gift to somebody or something like that. And then I find that the embossing powder has, the embossing ink has dried on me before I got the powder on. So this works really well. I'm just going to clean my mess up here real quick. Okay, get that out of the way. And the next step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use my heat tool to go ahead and do the embossing. This will be allowed for just about 30 to 60 seconds, so I'm going to do this off camera real quick here. And give me just a minute. Actually, I'll show you. I'm sure people know how to do embossing, but it's kind of hard to see. But this is the heat tool that I happen to have. And you just kind of wave it over your image that you've put the embossing powder on. Now, if I was using a colored embossing powder, then you would be able to actually see this pop up a little bit more. But since I'm doing the Resist Emboss technique, what you're seeing is that I use clear embossing powder, so it's coming up clear and not color. And you want to be careful you don't burn yourself with this either as you're doing this, as I have done when I first started. And let's kind of get that top piece here. And just got a little spot down here in the corner I need to get, and I think we'll be good. Alright, so what we're going to do now is, because this is kind of warm from the heat tool, I'm just going to kind of let this set to the side, and the next step we're going to work on is going to be this portion here, which is our stamped sentiment. Now I've already went ahead and cut out my cardstock that I wanted to use in the size that I want, and for this particular stamp, this particular tag for the stamp is 3 by 3.5 inches of purple cardstock, and this is just some coordinations. I believe it's in grape, and it's a distressable piece of cardstock. So what I'm going to do is get my stamped sentiment, which is going to be thinking of you. And I'll show you the products that I'm using up close for this project once we're done. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my ink out. Now I have stamped with distress inks and all kinds of like chalk inks, things like that. And I really liked, when I'm using just like a black, I want just like a black inked image on my project, I do like to use the Stays On ink. I just like how it looks. It's just real nice, crisp and clear. Just going to go and stamp that on there. And I'm doing mine kind of off to the side because I happen to have the butterfly and the other embellishments I'm putting on my project. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and distress the edges. I love to distress items. I like to distress by inking and by tearing and crumpling, things like that. So you could certainly leave it just like it is, but I like to have that distressed look. So I'm going to do this, usually I do it over my trash can, but I'm going to do it on camera just in case there's anybody who is not familiar with using a distressing tool, or maybe they aren't sure how to distress anything. And you just kind of go along the edges like this. You can make your distress as deep as you want, meaning you can just go like a little bit like this and it's just a light distressing. I'll go against the paper so you can kind of see. Or you can have a deep distressing like this. And this is kind of the more of what I like, that deeper distressing. And so we'll just kind of do this. And once I get all those edges done, I just kind of flip it over and get those corners that I was holding on to before. We'll just get those done here real quick. And also the beauty of this distress look is if you happen to go a little bit too crazy with this and you tear it, that's part of the look and it looks even better. So it's totally fine. We'll just kind of do this here. Get some of these paper edges off. Take this away. And then the next thing I'm going to do is grab my distress ink in Dusty Concord. And I have a little inker pad, and I love these. These are from Ink Essentials or from Ranger. You can get these. I love them. Makes inking a lot easier. And all I'm doing is kind of going along the edges here and getting the edge of my cardstock a nice purple. Okay, I'll put this off to the side. Clear off my workspace here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is go ahead and set this off to the side, and we're going to go ahead and work on the tag because it has cooled off now. So this is the really cool part of the distress ink, and I'm choosing to use more of the Dusty Concord. Sorry, the lid was upside down. Dusty Concord from Tim Holtz. You can use any kind of ink you want. I decided to use the distress inks because they just are really good for distressing and for blending. So I'm just going to kind of dab it in, and what you're going to do, before I start, I'm not sure if you can see that very good on camera or not, but you can kind of see the glisten of the embossed butterfly. So I'm going to go ahead and just take my inker, and I'm just going to go ahead and start distressing. And you can already see that the butterfly is starting to pop up on the tag. Now you can be as heavy-handed with this or as light-handed as you choose. It just depends on your personal taste and preference of how purple, in my example here, you want it to be. I've made other tags. I've done this technique a lot, and I've even blended different colors in, which is always fun to do. But for this purpose, I'm just going to go ahead and just use just the one color today. And so you can kind of see how it has done the Resist Emboss technique there. You can see the butterflies pop through. Looks really nice, pretty cool, I think. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and just kind of make the edges a little bit darker. This is something I could do in my sleep because I distress everything. If you look at the projects I have listed on my blog or on my website, most of my projects I've inked because that's just my thing. I love the way it looks. We'll kind of do the corners a little bit here. And then I wanted to show you, and I'm going to show you on this piece here because this will be covered with the cardstock, just so I don't mess up how the rest of it looks. If you, or not mess it up, but just so it doesn't look, it looks the same. If you wanted to, say, go with your ink a little bit darker, you can change that, and you can make that embossed image, Resist Embossed image, pop up out even more. I think it looks really cool if you kind of like that. You can kind of fade in and out of your image there. So now that we're done with that piece, the next step is going to be to add our cardstock to the tag. And I'm just going to go ahead and get my clean piece of paper here, flip it over. And you can use any kind of adhesive that you like. I just happen to have an ATG that I use for most everything, along with score tape. But there are many different types of adhesive. You can use a glue, you can use you know, the ATG, you can use score tape, and there's even liquid adhesive. So what I'm going to do is just going to go ahead and put this down, and without really taking a lot of time to figure out, I'm just going to kind of plop it on there. And then I went ahead, and the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and put on our ribbon. I went ahead and pre-cut the lengths I need from for my tag. And again, we're just using some of this fabulous May Arts ribbon that I just absolutely love. And we're going to go ahead and tie the bottom. Now this might seem kind of weird to you guys, but I do work in my room by myself. So this, when I don't have a third hand, I just use my tape dispenser to hold my item down like that. And this is what I do. And if my daughter's around, I will ask her to help me. So I'm just going to do a simple tie down here at the bottom of the tag. And we'll do another one here. And don't worry about if the ends of your ribbons frays, because we're going to trim those off. And I know this is really long, you can't even see the sentiment, but I'll trim it down once we get going. And I'm just going to kind of look at it here, kind of scrunch it up a little bit. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and get my scissors and kind of trim that down just a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of measuring every single thing that I do, so I kind of eyeball a lot of stuff, and then I just kind of cut it down as I need to. And we'll kind of twist that down here, just push it down just a little bit like that. Okay, so now the next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and put in the top here, tag, oops. Just kind of fold that over so I can get it in through the hole here at the top. Oh, sorry, it's slipping out of my fingers here. There's all different kinds of ways you can tie the tops of your tags. I just like to do this because this is a little bit wider ribbon. So I like it when it's just kind of like in a big knot. And we'll do two. A double knot here. Okay. So that kind of twists the top. And the same thing if the ends are frayed, which happens because you're twisting on the ends of the ribbons, kind of fold it over. And we'll just go off here and we'll trim that off. Over here, trim that off. And then you can kind of play with it a little bit and kind of tweak it and see how you like it. I'm probably going to cut that piece down here again in just a second. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is add my butterfly that I have on my original one. Now this is just one I had just happen to have in my stash of stuff. I don't remember who makes this. I got it when I was at the convention in Portland, Oregon here earlier this year. Anyway, so I wanted to use this because I think it's really pretty, but I didn't want to just put it on there just like it is because it kind of pops out so much because it's kind of a cream white. So what I did is I went ahead and already got one prepared, but all I did is I inked this one with some more of this distress ink that I used on the tag itself. Now you're going to want to be careful because this does have glitter on it and it can get on your ink pad. So what I did is I used a foam that comes with the handles when you buy these ink tools, and I had a separate one that I used to ink this glittery butterfly, and then I threw it away because I don't want to get glitter on my ink pad because when I use it for other projects I could get glitter on things that I don't want glitter to be on. Just a little tip. So I'm not sure if you can tell the difference. I'll hold it up here, but you can kind of see this one's kind of got a little more purple on it on the edges, and this is just more of the plain. And I wanted to kind of pop off the card. And I also went ahead and bent it just a little bit so it kind of looked like the butterfly had just landed on the tag. And so the way I'm going to adhere this, there are many different ways you can do it, but I'm going to use a couple glue dots because I like to use glue dots for adding embellishments like this. And let's put a couple on there just to secure it really good. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and just kind of put that butterfly right here in the corner. And then my last thing I'm going to do is to put on some pearls that I have here. It's kind of hard to see against the white. But these are the pearls I'm going to use. And then I'm going to put some of the small ones on. Now you can't, sometimes I will use my, let me grab them here, my tweezers to grab these off if they slip off my fingers and I can't get them to go on my project. But my nails have actually kind of grown out a little bit, so I'm able to do it without those this time. And just kind of eyeball. If you like 3, I know some people like to embellish in odd numbers. They like 3s and 5s to embellish. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I want an even number. So it just kind of depends on what you feel like doing at the time you're making the project. So what I do now is I kind of sit back and I look at it and think, what can I tweak on it? What can I do a little bit different? And just by looking at this right away, I can just tell that I need to go ahead and trim off this piece here because it's covering part of the sentiment. So we'll go ahead and snip just a little bit more here. And then kind of twist it here, kind of pull it down, scrunch it a little bit. Okay. All right. So there is the tag that I have just made for you guys. So here was the sample I showed you in the beginning. And this is the one that we just made right now. So you can kind of tweak it, like I said, a little bit and kind of get it where you want it to be. And another really cool thing to do too is you can make something like this to use for like a tag swap, which I recently participated in one. And then you can always flip it over and you can sign on the back. And that's another thing why I like to use the tea stain besides it just looking distressed, is that it's just not a plain white back. Because sometimes whenever you are working on a project, if you have a plain piece of cardstock or a tag, you've got the front of the project looking really, really cool, distressed, it looks really nice. And then you flip it over and it's like, whoa, it just hits you in the face. It's just like plain. So I kind of like to have that where it's, not such a bright white. And I have a couple of the tags I wanted to show you really quick too that have the Resist Emboss technique on. Actually just one. This is one I did a few weeks ago for one of the teams I'm on. This is another one with the same butterfly, but it's just a different color technique. And it's to show you that you can put tags on top of tags and use all kinds of different colors for the Resist Emboss technique. And let me show you real fast. These are the products I used today. Just some random things I had in my stash. I used the Thinking of You stamp from Stampology. And then I used the butterfly from the Studio 112 clear stamp set. And the pearls I used are from Want to Scrap. And again, the wonderful ribbon from May Arts. And the Tim Holtz Distress ink, Stays on Black ink, and some Perfect Medium, and some clear embossing powder. So I want to thank everybody for coming to my blog today and checking out my tutorial on how to do the Resist Emboss technique and how easy it is to make a quick and simple tag. And come again. Thanks. Bye.